Ben Ochart here. Thank you so much for tuning in. And today I want to speak with you about the topic of color. People sometimes ask me, hey, how do you get the color that you get in your fish? How did you get so lucky to get a hold of that fish with that kind of color? And I want to share with you what I'm doing to get that kind of color in my fish, especially the fish that you have in the 100 behind me here, and also in the 60 gallon that I'm standing in front of as I'm speaking to you right now. So let's get into it. These are my 10 tips for getting the most color out of your fish. I hope you find them helpful, and certainly comment below. Let me know what tips you have for anyone who wants to get more color out of their fish, and anything that's worked for you. I would love to hear about it, and of course people love to talk about it back and forth in the comments below. The Convo gang, you know what I'm talking about. Thank you so much. Let's get right into those 10 tips. Fish are munching on the algae scrubber. They love the algae that's inside that scrubber. Right before I service it, I just lay it out for the fish to enjoy it. But tip number 1, and this is obvious, I believe, pristine water. Really stay on top of your filtration, stay on top of your water changes. Make sure that you're turning that tank over between 5 and 10 times an hour, running it through filter media, and polishing that water. And really sticking to your schedule, really doing the work, not being lazy, and sticking to it. So that's tip number 1, pristine water. Tip number 2, monitored water. Now what does that mean? That means that be sure you're conditioning your water during water changes. Be sure you stay on top of what's going on with your water with water testing, whether that's testing of the tank or testing of the tap. Be sure that you provide stable water conditions. No big fluctuations such as temperature or pH, things of this nature that can occur sometimes, since that creates stress. And really fast action when your readings are off. Don't let a slight amount of ammonia become a big amount of ammonia. Really stay on top of those things, and you'll do fine. So point number 2 is monitored water. Point number 3, good lighting. And there are the different types of lights out there, and we all have our preferences, and very often those are driven to some degree by budget. But I personally prefer full spectrum LEDs. They tend to consume less electricity and do provide, I feel, good lighting. Also be sure that whatever your light is resting on, such as a glass panel, be sure those panels are clean. Sometimes those panels can be covered in algae and other things that are coloring the fish because the light is going through a sort of filter. So be sure you keep whatever your light is resting on nice, clean, and transparent. Point number 4, feed your fish quality food. Be sure there's no additives. Be sure there's no preservatives. Really make sure that the fish are getting the best food that your budget can actually support. And be sure that you're not overfeeding, because since that can create stress too, and also can spike things like nitrates in your tank, which can also create stress. So proper nutrition, and be sure that you're providing the nutrition that that particular species needs. For example, if you do have some fish that need veggies in their diet, be sure that you're providing those, like Mabuna or Protomelis, fish like that. And of course, females. I mean, having females in the tank, that can create fish that are fired up. That can help bring about what is called breeding dress, and get the fish pretty excited and have them show their best qualities. That's something you're going to have to make a judgment call on, of course, because when you have a fish thinking about breeding, they can also start to act a little wacky and be over aggressive. So that's something that is really your call. Proper temperature. This is important. Keep the temperature in the ranges that you need them to be on, and this need them to be in, and that falls within that category of stress, which is really point number 7. Really keep stress reduced. And what does that mean? That means proper tank mates. That means the quick removal of a fish that might not be working out. That means not a lot of messing with the tank, constantly moving to core and adding and taking things out and just fiddling with it too much, which can create stress. And really have those water parameters dialed in as precisely as you can. Point 8, start with good stock. Buy from a known breeder, buy from someone you trust, someone who's getting a hold of F1, wild caught things of this nature. Good hardy stock. Start with good fish to begin with. And point number 9, a tip that I suggest is buy groups of fish. You want a particular fish, you want a spectacular specimen of that fish, get a hold of 3 to 5 of them, grow them out, and then go ahead and keep the star, the pick of the litter, if you will. And my last tip is proper oxygen. This also touches on stress. Keep proper oxygen levels. If they're working their mouths or hanging around the top, you're stressing them, that's going to color them down. So those are my 10 tips. I hope you find them helpful. And again, certainly share what your tips are in the comments below. Be sure to hit that bell that I'm going to put right here. Hit that bell so that you get notifications. And certainly tune in on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Most Saturdays, I'm going to be doing live streams, cichlids and coffee. And come join us, have a cup of coffee, and let's talk about fish. And that's the 60-gallon behind me. And I'm standing in front of the 100. That's where Photoshop lives. So anyway, thank you for tuning in. And that's all for me. And be sure to sub, rate, all that good stuff. Follow on Instagram if you care to at ben.o.cichlid. And be sure to come on over to the Facebook group ben.o.cichlid, a friendly group of fish keepers. Cichlid is in the name, but we're open to all types of fish keepers. Doesn't matter really what kind of fish you keep. We're friendly and helpful and all that good stuff. So anyway, thank you so much. That's all for me. Bye-bye.